What's up, guys? Josh Helm here with Texas Best Construction, and we're in the office today. It's actually been raining today, so we thought we would sit down in the office and talk about something that's kind of been in need of discussion for us, and some of the questions, the common questions that we run across when people call us and are looking and inquiring for a builder to build barndominiums. And so I want to talk about some of the common misconceptions and bring out some truths about building barndominiums in Texas. One of the number one things that I want to start on in my list is that building a barndominium is not a new idea. People have actually been building barndominiums for decades. Even in my teenage years, walking through barn home, barndominium, and thought, man, that's really cool. And even when I first got married, which was nearly 20 years ago, one of the first things that my wife and I considered doing was building a metal building and finishing out part of the building. Those plans never came to fruition because we ended up moving and sold our land. We processed the idea of building what you would now call a barndominium when I first got married. And later on, my father built a barndominium. My in-laws now live in a barndominium. I mean, there's just, it's become quite a popular way of living. Understanding the history, it's not a new idea, even though there's a freshness to it because a lot of people are changing the usage. Because originally, I think it was more ranchers that had thousands of acres, who would build a big building and needed a place to have an efficiency quarters, and they would build a small place inside of a metal building. Also commonly known, a lot of the early people who built barndominiums, they would do it to try to save maybe taxes, things of that nature. They would build the building, come back later. The number two misconception that I'd like to bring out a truth in is that there are limitations on the finish for barndominium. This seems to kind of carry a stigma with it that, oh, well, I don't want to do that because I'll be limited in my finish out. Actually, what you need to understand about building barndominium is it's more like a custom home, and there are many options. As a matter of fact, there's just as many options in building a barndominium as building a conventional style home. My question for you would be, what type of consumer are you? That would dictate what type of finish you're looking for. There are different type of finishes, and just like you can buy a house in a neighborhood that may have standard and most basic finishes and have fairly large square footages, you can get really cheap prices on certain houses like that. For the most basic finishes. If you go down the street or into a different zip code and you have a different builder build it, and it has a lot more thought process went into it as in regards to the air tightness, waterproofing, everything that could go into insulation, and then the trim packages, the flooring finishes, all these kind of things play a part in the finish. So you're unlimited in what type of finish you can do in a barndominium. The question is, what kind of consumer are you? What are you looking for in your barndominium? That dictates what type of finish. So there are no limitations, and I think if you've watched some of our latest videos, you can realize that it's really wide open. Probably the largest question, or the number three, the biggest question that we get, and also it's a stigma and a thought that building a barndominium is cheaper. So the question would be, how much does it cost to build a barndominium? And so that's where you come back to these other questions and you say, well, what type of consumer are you? Are you a minimalist, meaning that you want to just have the efficiencies and you want to just do the bare minimum? Or number two, are you more the shotgun approach customer who wants to get a good balance of everything. You want a good, decent-sized shop. You want a good, decent-sized living quarters. And you may have a different set of needs than the next guy. It's not a across the board, this is what it costs per square foot to build a barndominium. There's a lot of questions that we have for you if you're inquiring about building a barndominium. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? What type of countertops? How many square foot of living quarters do you have? How big a shop do you want? How many overhead doors do you need? There's just a lot of questions that need to be answered in actually putting cost out there. But it carries a stigma. There's actually a misconception that barndominiums are actually cheaper to build than a conventional style home. I say in return, what type of conventional style home are you comparing a barndominium to? Because if it's a high grade home, then it probably is going to cost similar cost. If it's a mid grade, it's going to cost similar cost. If it's a basic grade, it's going to have some similar cost associated with it. But the main thing to remember about that is that square footage rules the day. At the end of the day, framing crew is going to get paid based on square footage. The sheetrock crew is going to get paid based on square footage. This game does not change when we come into a barndominium versus a conventional style home. The amount of flooring you put down, it costs a certain amount per square footage. Where you could save money on a barndominium would be as if you built it yourself, number one, and if you put a lot of sweat equity in it. And that's where I think you can gain some cost savings. But if you're going to choose someone like Texas Best Construction to build your barndominium, then we're going to come in, we're going to have a team of experts, and we're going to come in and put a pretty nice finish. All of our finish packages, standard, have granite countertops, a good trim package as well. You're not going to have immediately wood finishes as far as shiplap walls and all these kind of things. You'd have bullnose corners if you'd like, custom cabinetry, a spray foam insulation. We put in the zip system on the exterior walls so that we can attack the air tightness and the weather barrier and the vapor barrier. This is some of the finishes that you would automatically get unless you were a minimalist and you wanted to come in and just do some things yourself or finish them later. So cost can vary. There's no way for me to tell you how much your barndominium is going to cost until you give me some details, until you give us some specifics. We can put pricing together. Just to recap, number one, building a barndominium is not a new idea. Number two, there are no limitations to what your finish could be on a barndominium. And number three, the cost, that it's cheap. It's not necessarily cheaper. I will throw a fourth one in there that it's hard to get financed. In Texas, it's actually a popular thing right now to build barndominiums, and we've had zero trouble getting financed for building barndominiums. So there you go. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you'll like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Josh Helm, Texas Best Construction, and stay tuned for more.